Hello and namaste devs. Welcome back to Fullstack Mobile App Development section 2. I know I'm little late, but finally our video is here. So in this section, we are going to learn how to create beautiful bottom tab navigation. We are going to improve our login flow and we are going to integrate cloud functions. In the backend, we are going to create cloud functions. Okay. This section is full pack of interesting features which we are going to learn. So if you are ready, let's learn. Okay guys, so before start coding, let's move to our wireframes and see what we have done so far and what we are going to do today. So in the last section, we have completed our login screen, sign up screen, and basic of home screen. We added the functionality of login and sign up and log out, right? So in this section, we are going to create these three screens where we are going to show the task and description. So these will be the cards, and definitely we need to create something reusable component which we can reuse for these cards, right? After that, we are going to create this bottom tab navigation, which will allow us to navigate between the screens. And in add task, we will allow user to add their task. And here we will allow user to change their password if they want. Okay, so again, we will go through it step by step, learning bottom tab navigation and creating list view, creating forms, right? So it's going to be interesting. So let's go and start coding. Okay, so first I will go to my command line. And here I am already inside the project folder. If you remember, we have created this do it folder, and inside that, so if you don't know the Linux command, so pwd is for present working directory. So you can see right now I'm inside D drive, inside code, inside projects, inside do it. And if I say ls, it will list out the files and folder inside do it. Okay. So you can see right now we have two folders. One is for our app and one is for the server. Okay. So here we are going to open our app first. I will go inside do it app and I will do I forgot I'm using npm or yarn. So let's check. We are using yarn. So I'm going to do yarn Android, or you can do yarn start and then press A to start the Android emulator. Okay. Also, we will go to our WSL, which is Ubuntu. We are using Windows Subsystem Linux and using Ubuntu. Here we will start our Parse Server. And again, I'm inside do it directory. And here we have two folders. And I will go inside server. Okay, I will open my code editor first. Okay, so our code editor is open. Let's go back to the command line and start our server. We are going to use bun run watch. Okay, there is some problem. I think I removed the node modules folder, so I'm going to install the modules using bun I to install the packages. Let's check why our app is not get started. Need to cancel this. Okay, so our code editor is open. It's time to start our server using yarn start. I'm going to open the emulator using our extension. I'll go back to my code editor and try to start the app in our emulator using, I will press A and we'll try to open the app. It seems like we are not able to open it using our command line, so we will go and open it manually. So you know how to do that. Let's go back to command line. You can see our port is 192.168.1.108 colon 8081. Okay, so let's type that over here. exp colon slash slash 192.168.1.108 colon 8081. Your port or your IP address might be different. So just check your URL in the command line because mine is this. So I'm using that. Okay. Let's try to connect. And now you can see we are able to connect. It is building our app. Okay. So let's try to log in. Let's see our server is running or not. Okay. Server packages are installed and I'm going to start run watch. So our server is starting. So if you remember last time we used ngrok to connect with our server because our local host is not able to communicate with our emulator. But this time again we will try with localhost first. Okay, and let's save this. I will try to restart the server. So I will press control M. It's going to open a model and here we can click to reload our app. Okay, now let's try to log in. So I have a username Himanshu, password is ABCD1234, login. And you can see we are not able to connect with the API. So you know how to connect with ngrok. So let's go to command line. Okay, and let me open a new Ubuntu terminal. And here I will use ngrok http and our server address, local server address, which is http colon slash slash localhost colon 1337 port. Okay, so it's going to host our local host in the public domain. So it's going to provide us a public URL which we can access from anywhere. Okay, and here I will change the URL. I will remove any space if there. I will save this. Now let's try to log in again. So already username and password is there. Right. So I'm going to click and we are logged in. Okay. So our server is connected. We are able to log in. Let's check the task list. So here we have our new task list where we have created few tasks. So our first task is to create a bottom tab navigator. Okay. So we already configured our navigation last time, right? So now to create a bottom tab navigator, let's go back to our browser. And here we will search for React navigation. Inside navigation, read docs. So basically I'm showing you docs because I'm not going to teach you everything, right? So if tomorrow you need something else, suppose you need a tab navigator, header tab navigator, then you can come to docs and you should able to search that yourself, right? That's why I'm showing you docs rather than typing the code directly. So in navigators, we can see we have stack navigation, native stack, drawer, bottom tab. So let's go to bottom tab. Okay. So here you can see we can create such simple bottom tab navigation. We also have a material bottom tab navigator. We are going to create a beautiful navigation, not that simple as well. Okay, but better than that. Okay, so let's copy this, go back to our command line. Here our server is running, so I will close it and I will paste and install bottom tab navigator. In the meantime, we will go to the browser and we will check how to configure bottom tab navigator. So here are the steps. I will just copy the code and we'll try to understand the code inside the code editor. Okay, so let's go back to command line. Our packages are installed. Let me start the server again using yarn start. Okay, let's go back to our code editor. Here, let me close all the unwanted pages we have open. Okay, and we also don't need app.js right now. So we want to create a navigation, and for that we have already created folder structure, and you can easily think that okay, to create a navigation we must create inside the navigation folder. So we'll go inside navigation folder, click on index.js. So here is our native stack navigator. Okay, so basically we are checking if user is logged in, then we are going to go inside home. If it is not logged in, then we will going to move him into login screen. Okay, now we want a tab navigator. So basically tab navigator will have three screens, right? If we check the design, it will have three screens. One is home, one is add task, and one is profile screen, right? So we will need three tabs. So before creating the tabs, what I will do, I will create the screens. Okay, and for that, to creating the screens, we have to go inside screens folder, right? So let's go back to our code editor, click on the screens folder. We have auth and home folder. So let's click and create a new folder inside it. And we will name this folder add task. Okay. And inside this, we are going to create our index.js file. Again, click on screens folder, create a new folder, and we will name it profile. Inside that, we are going to click and create our index.js file. Okay. Now let's go inside profile and let's create a simple component. Okay. Let's use our shortcut React Native functional component with style. Okay. And here I will say profile screen. Okay. I don't want to default export it. I want it to be name export. Okay. Let's go back to the add task, and here again React Native functional component with style, and I will say add tasks clean, and we don't need this. Say export. Fine. So our screens are created. Let's go to navigation now. Okay. One thing we forgot. So we exported the folder, but we are exporting it from screens folder, right? So we need to go back to the screens folder index.js file. Here we are exporting our components, all the components which we have inside its screens folder. So I'm going to export, add tasks screen from dot slash add task, and again export profile screen from profile, right? Save this. Seems like profiles is not profiles but profile screen. That's why it was showing error. Still red. Now it's fine. Okay, cool. So now it's time to create our bottom tab navigation. So what we will do, I'm going to create a new file inside navigation, and I will call it bottom tab nav.js. And if you remember, in the browser we copied this code, so I'm going to paste it here. It's going to import our create bottom tab navigator. We are going to store it inside a const, and in my tabs, rather than using my tabs, I will use a arrow function. I will name it bottom tab nav, and it's an arrow function, so we must give an arrow here, and it's going to return this. So we don't have settings, we have home screen. So I will just import the home screen by control space enter. Home screen is imported. Now we have uh, add task screen, right? So let's name it add task. So I'm going to do control shift D. It's going to duplicate our line, and here I will add profile screen. Okay, and let's name it profile, right? And we are going to export it. Let's export default bottom tab nav, and let's copy this. I will go inside index.js file, and here right now we don't need this. Rather than, we are going to import our bottom tab nav because we have home page inside that, right? So I'm going to save this. Okay, now it's time to test. So let's try to reconnect our server is running. So let's go to emulator and press double R if you are on Windows. It will reload our app. And here we are on the login screen again. We have to log in. Login. Okay, so but bottom tab nav not exist. Okay, I forgot to import it. So let's import this first. We'll import it by control space and enter. Save it. Okay, so now you can see we have three tabs. If we click on add task, you can see add task header. On profile, you can see profile header, and home, we have this button, right? If we log out, we are on login and sign up screen, right? So let's try to log in again. A should be capital. So here is our bottom tab navigation, and still we don't have icons. That's why it is showing like this, but we are going to make it better. Okay, so let's work on designing our bottom tab navigation. So let's remove home from here because we are not importing home directly inside navigation. So let's go inside bottom tab nav, and let's try to style this. So let's start with the icons first. Okay, let's try to add the icons. And the good news is Expo comes with its own icons. Okay, there is a package inbuilt inside Expo which provide us icons. Okay, so let's go to the browser. Okay, and here if you search for the Expo icons, you will get this website. And here if we click on filters, you can see we have and design icons, we had font awesome, we have material community icons, material icons, and feather icon. My favorites are feather, so I'm going to use feather. I will click here. So right now we need three icons, right? One is home. Let's search for the home icon. Okay, here is home. Okay, and first we need to import the feather icons from Expo vector icons. Okay, so let's copy this, go to the code editor, and let's import this. Okay, so basically we copied both, but I'm going to ignore this. So I'm going to cut it from here. And now in tab screen, we have a prop called options. Okay, and it takes an object, configuration object, and here we can say tab bar, tab bar icons. Okay, and tab bar icons takes a callback which also provide us with color. So whatever color we will set for the navigation, it will take that, and the size. And if we provide the size, it will take the size as well. And here we will paste that icon component. Okay, and which we took from here, right? Now in color, we are going to get it from colors, which is this one, and size, we are going to take it from size, right? So let's save this. Okay, and now you can see our home icon is there. Let's go and find a suitable icon for add task and profile. Okay, so let's go back. So here we have feather, something which we can use. We can assume it like it's writing, we are writing our task. So let's import. We don't have to import because we already import feathers icon family. We just need to copy this. Okay, so I will click on copy. Let's go back to the code editor. And again, here, I will arrange these properties, and we are going to use options, and it takes configuration object and tab bar icon size equals to be size and color equals to color. Okay. Let's find a icon for profile. Let me arrange this as well. I think something like a user icon will be okay. So let's copy the same from here, paste it here. Let's try to add user. Maybe we have something name user, and yes, we have. Okay, so here are our icons. So our navigation is looking okay. Can design it better. So let's try to make it little bit not touched at the bottom and from the left and right hand side. Let's try to style it and customize it as per our needs. Okay, and let's do it. So to style the complete navigation, what we can do is we can style it from tab navigator. Okay, here we will make some space, add our option. So first of all, what I will do, I will say that I need the initial screen to be home screen. Okay, so if you don't mention this, it is going to use this, the first tab anyways. But if you want some, I think it is better to add initial route name. So if even if you add your tab anywhere, it is not going to affect your initial route. So whenever this route will load, it will always load that particular screen. Okay, so I will say home. Next we have screen options, which again take a configuration object, and here we can say tab bar style. And as we know, we can style it using our style attributes. So first we will position it absolute. Next we will give some space from bottom. So once we add position absolute, we can use top, bottom, left, right to give where we want our item to be. So let's give 10 from bottom. Okay, which will nudge it little bit, and now it is a little bit moved up. Okay, now let's try to give some space from left and right, and for that I will give margin. So we can do margin left 10, margin right 10, or we can use margin horizontal, which will apply same space from both side, left and right. Okay, so if maybe 60, let's see. So I think that's fine. Let's start with this and see if we need any changes, we will do it. Okay, I need rounded corners completely. So let's make it a capsule type look. Okay, and for that we can use border radius, and I will give it 100. Okay, now we get that capsule look. Okay, and let's give it a height, because right now our icons are looking very tight inside, right? So let's give it a height. Maybe let's start with, maybe let's try 60. Okay, and I think it is looking fine. So If we click and check the tabs, you can see we have our header which is mentioning we are on which screen. So I think we don't need the labels below the icons in our navigation, right? Let's try to remove that. And to remove it, we have an option called tab bar show label. So by default, it is true. So let's make it false and save this. Now you can see our bottom tab is looking good, but the color is not matching with our theme, right? I want it to be purple, like our buttons. Okay, let's try to change it. To change that, we have an option called tab bar active tint color. So whenever we will select our icon, it's going to use that color, and we have a color name 6B4FA9. So this color I already choose from the theme which we are using right now, React Native paper. So I copied it from there. If you want something else, you can definitely go ahead and use that. And whenever it is inactive, we need a color for that as well. And I will use tab bar inactive, not background color, inactive tint color, and it will be hash inside hash CFB CFF, and I will save that. Okay, so now it is looking much better. Let's give a background color to our tab bar. So here we will type background color, and let's give hash EATDFF, and let's save this. And this is the bottom tab navigation I like, and I think that is enough. Okay, so our navigation is ready, and now I think we can start designing our screens. So let's go to our task list and check what is our next task. So our create bottom tab navigation is completed. Okay, and now it's time to create proper login flow. Now you will say, okay, we already created our login flow, right? We already have our login flow. So let's see what's wrong with our login flow right now. Okay, so let's go to emulator. And now if I try to log in, okay, I'm logged in. But now if I close the app and try to open the app again, I need to log in again, right? But if you see any normal app, once you logged in inside the app, until you log out, you will not see the login screen, right? Every time you open the app, you don't need to enter your username and password, right? Until it is a banking or. And if you see, actually, once we log in, still our session is running because we are using this async storage, and our Parse client used to store the token and the user details inside the local storage by itself. We don't have to do it manually. Once you log in, Parse Server automatically take the username and password and store it inside the local storage until you log out. Okay, that means we have our session token and user details inside our app. But right now we are not using that. Okay, so basically how our login flow works, let me go to Figma and try to explain you that. Okay, so I will go here. So basically what happens is we log in. Once we log in, our app moves us to the home screen, right? And we have something called local storage. So for that, maybe I will use something like this, let's say, which stores our credentials, our token. Okay. And next time, whenever you open the app, our app needs to check the local storage, that do we have the token available or not. If token is available, we will try to send the user inside the home screen. And once user log out, we will clear the local storage and we move the user to login screen. And next time when he opens the app, again our app need to check the local storage if there is a token. If token is not there, then we will move him to the login screen. Okay, so right now Parse server is helping us with storing the local storage inside async storage. Okay, but we are not using that local storage to decide whether to log in the user or move him to the login screen and ask him to enter the username and password, right? So first we need to check, do we have our user details inside async storage? For that, let me copy this. Okay, and whenever we log in, you can see our first component is main navigation. Okay, so let's go inside the navigation. Okay, and let me import parse client here. Now if we go to the browser and open the parse documentation, parse server, let's search it, parseplatform.org. Let's go inside JavaScript guide, because we are using SDK. So this is JavaScript SDK, and let's click here user. Now we need to see how we can check the current user. Okay, and once you sign up here, once you log in, current user. Okay, so here it is saying that we can use something parse.user.current. But in case we are using the async storage, then we need to use parse.user.currentAsync. Okay, so let me copy this. Now let's go back to our code editor. And here we already imported parse. Okay, now we need to run the parse.user.currentAsync, and this is going to fetch our user details if user details are available inside our async storage. Okay, so let's store this information inside user. Okay, and definitely this is a promise, so we need to use await, and we need to put this inside a function. So I will say current user equals to async brackets. Okay, now we run the function. We need to get the details. So now we get the user details inside here, and we will console it. So we will get the details inside user. And to get the information, we need to use get keyword. Here we need to pass what we need, what data we need. Okay, and we need the username, and let's pass maybe username, something like that, and comma and username. Okay, so let's save this. Okay, now we need to think where we are going to run this function, when we are going to run this function, right? So I think the best way to run this function is when this component is going to mount, okay, or when this component is going to run. And for that, React provides us a hook called use effect, and use effect takes a callback and it takes a dependency array. Okay, and here I will call that function. So if you don't know about use effect, so basically it's a hook which allow us to run some function whenever this components renders. Okay, so if we want to run this function once, we should keep the dependency array blank. Okay, that means it will run once. If we pass some dependency here, like suppose is logged in, I pass that dependency over here. So it will run whenever the value of this variable is changed. Okay. So that's how we use effect. Right now we just want it to run once. Okay. And that's why we will keep it blank. And once I save this, I can go back to my command line. And here you can see we have username, right, in the log. So we have the username. Still, we are not logged in. So let me go back to the code editor and clear this, not use selector, but this function. And let's go back to the Figma and try to understand. Okay. So basically, we have home screen and we have login screen. Okay. And we need something which will decide where to send the user, whether on the home screen or on the login screen. Okay. And right now we are doing it from our navigation. There we are checking if user is logged in, and this is coming from our Redux Toolkit, which is our state management, and it is deciding whether to show the login screen or logout or the home screen, right? So we need a function which will check our local storage and see if we have a token. If we have a token, it will make is login true, and which will allow user to log in without the password. Or if it is false, then it will move it to the login screen. Okay. And to update the state, definitely we need to see to slices, right? How we are going to update the slice. And to update the slice, last time you remember, we have used thunks. Okay. So let's go back to thunks. Here we already have Parse Server. Now here I will create a new thunk a simple thunk. We are not going to use async thunk. And I will name this function auto login only if we have our user details in the local storage. Okay. Here I will take const user equals to parse dot user dot current async. Okay. And this should be async and it will be await. So wait, before writing this function, we need an action, right? Which will be dispatch and change our slice. Okay. And to create the action, we need to go inside slices. So let's go back to slice first. Here we need to create a reducer like this clear error reducer which we created, and same function can be used as an action. If you remember, last time we created this action to clear the errors. Okay, so we are going to create our auto login method here. Okay, which is going to update the user details. Okay, which is like is login, is loading. I don't think we need, but user login. So let's go to the login extra reducer which we have here. In case of login fulfilled, when user is log fulfilled. So let's copy this and paste it here. Okay, because we are going to update the state if user is already there inside our local storage. Okay, so we get state and action. Okay, and action will have the payload to update the user details, which is token, and also the payload username. Okay, so basically when the user will open the app, we are not going to show him any error, right? So we don't need this. Also, we are not going to log in. We just need to update if it is logged in, then we are going to make login to true and update the user and token. Okay, I will save this. And now our action is created. Let's export this from actions. Okay, now this action we need to run from our thunk. Okay, so I will import that action. Import auto login from import auto login from dot slash slices dot to go out of thunk folder inside auth slice, right? And we are going to grab this. So now we get the auto login. Okay, and we need to update this because both functions name should not be same. So this is our auto login action. So we are going to update this function like maybe auto login user. Okay, now that's different. Okay, so auto login user needs to check if the user is there or not, and if user is there, it's going to return a function again. Okay, now this function, whenever we are going to run, we need to dispatch it, right? But again, this function need to be dispatched. This action needs to be dispatched, right? Then only it's going to be accepted by the slice and it's going to update our state. Okay, and that dispatch we will get from here. Okay, so we are going to get the dispatch, and here I can say dispatch and auto login, and inside this we are going to send the values of user detail, user dot get username. Okay, and we are going to put it inside username, and second is we need to check, so we are going to send token from user dot get. It will be session token, okay, which we are going to dispatch from here. Okay, and to improve this, what we can do, rather than returning a function like this, we can move this here, and we can ignore the curly braces and return it like this. Okay, and I will use the async from here. Okay, so this is going to return a function which going to dispatch auto login action with these two values, okay, which we are going to get from user. So there is a chance that user is logged out. In that case, we need to check if user is login or not. If user have the values, then we are going to pass this. So in case the user is there, then only we are going to dispatch this. Okay. Otherwise, we will keep it as it is. So now where we are going to use this function. So let's copy this and go to navigation, because navigation is the first component we are mounting. Okay. And here I will use effect, which I recently shown you. It's going to take a callback with a dependency array, and from here I'm going to dispatch that auto login user, and we don't have any values for that, so we need to get the dispatch from the hook use dispatch, right? Okay, and as this dependency array is blank, it's going to run once. Okay, so let's see what is the error here. Auto login user doesn't exist. Okay, so I forgot to import it, sorry. So let's import it quickly. Now it is fine, and you can see it is already working. Okay, so how it is working? When our apps load, it's going to run this. It's going to dispatch auto login.user, and this is going to run our function. Okay, here it will check if the user is logged in or not. If user is logged in, then this will have values, and this condition will match, and then this, from here we are going to dispatch our action, which is auto login. Auto login will get the payload of username and token. Okay, and in slice we already have updating our state by is login and username and token, right? Token, these things will be updated, and once is login is login, then it will be true and we will be inside our app, right? Now let's try to log out, and now let's try to refresh. So we can see the login screen, but there is some error. So let's check what is the error. So we are getting this error. Okay. So basically what it is saying that we have created a cycle. We are running a action from the thunk, and that thunk is again running that action and updating the slice, right? And it is asking, it is allowed, but if we want to remove this warning, we need to refactor it. Okay. To remove this warning, what we are going to do, I'm going to create a separate folder inside store, and I will call it actions. Okay. So basically we are going to use an action, and it's not a thunk actually. We are not creating a thunk like this. So I think it's better to put it inside a separate file, and I will call it auth action. Okay. .js. Inside this, I'm going to import all these things. So I'm going to cut it. I'll put it over here. Okay. Just keep any space over here inside this. Now we need to update the path for this auto login. Here I will say actions and save this. Okay. I need to get the parse for thunks. I forgot that. Removed it. Okay, it is completely failed to compile. Let's go to command line and try to reload it. Cancel this. Rerun it. Then I will go to the emulator and try to reload. There is some mistake in the path, it seems. Okay, let's check the path. Auth action, and I will save this. Let's try to reload. And now there is no error, right? Okay, so we have no warnings, no errors, everything is fine. And now let's try to log in. Okay, and let's try to reload again and see if we are able to get back to our home screen or not. So I will say double R, it will reload. For a second, we are seeing that login screen, but after that, we move to the home screen, right? So one issue is resolved, but still it is not perfect, right? For a second, we are able to see the login screen. Okay, what we can do? I think until it is checked if the user is logged in or not, or we have the user details inside the sync storage or not, we should show that splash screen. So you will say, what is splash screen? You don't know. Let me reload the app. Now this is called splash screen, okay, which shown before loading the app. At the time your app is loading, it is showing that splash screen and it goes automatically. So we have an option in Expo to manipulate it or decide when to show or hide the splash screen. Okay. And for that, let's go back to our browser, and in Expo, let's search splash screen. Okay. So we have this we have this package which we need to install, which will help us to control that splash screen. So let's go back to the command line. Let's install it quickly. Okay, so that is installed. Let's rerun our server. Uh, We have this example over here, and we can copy this. And let's go back to the code editor. Now here, let's import it in the navigation. Okay, let's go back to the browser and see the example. So here it is mentioned, keep the splash screen visible while we fetching the resources. Okay, so we can prevent it from auto hide. So let's go back and try that. Okay, so what I will do, I will just paste it after this. Splash screen dot prevent auto hide. Okay, so once it is auto hide, and if we go back to our app, let's try to reload. You can see the app is 100% loaded, but still we are seeing that splash screen. It is not removed because in the code we are not saying when to hide it. Okay, it is preventing auto hide. Now we can write some code which will first run this, and once this is run and decide whether to log in or not, and then we will hide the splash screen. Okay, so let's go back to our browser and see what we have to hide it. So we have some option over here. So splash screen. So we have splash screen dot hide async function to hide the splash screen. Okay, so now let's go back. Let me copy this, go back to the code editor. Now we need to think what logic we need to write so that after this is ran and check if user is logged in or not, and after that only we are going to run the hide splash screen. Okay, and for that I think in auth slice what we can do, so let's say in slice we will say show splash screen. So initially we want that to be true. Okay, so whenever the app will load for the first time, we want to show the splash screen, right? In the initial state we want to show it, but we want to hide it later. In reducer we are going to write a method, simple method, which will hide it. Okay, so I will say hide, I will say hide splash screen, and we just need state here. We are not going to get the action because we don't have any payload or any error. Okay, and here I can say state dot show splash screen equals to false. Okay, now I think I spell it wrong. hide hide splash screen, so I will copy this. I need to export this as an action. Now we can go back to our navigation, and here let's call that state show splash screen. Okay, and we will use a use effect. And in the dependency array, we are going to pass that show splash. So if that is changed at that time, so initially it will run, okay, and whenever this is changed, it is going to run again. And for that, here I will mention when the show splash show splash screen is false, okay, at that time we are going to run this function, hides splash screen. So this is a asynchronous function. So what we can do, I will say const hide splash screen, and inside this I will paste this async, and then we are going to await this, and we are going to run this function from here, right? And we can bring it to one line by removing this and bring it here. Okay, now we will go back to the auth slice. We will get our action, and let's go to auth action here. So here we are checking if the user is there. If user is there, then fine. Let's run this. Let's dispatch it. Okay, and we are logging the user. At the same time, we are going to set the show splash screen to off. Okay, right now you can see it is automatically changed. But in case user is not there, at that time also we want to hide the splash screen. So I will bring this function here. I will dispatch it. I will dispatch this function, this action from here. Okay, and I need to import it from slice. Okay, so once I save this, now let's try to understand how this is going to work. And I think before that, let's go back and test our function. So we are at the home screen. We are logged in as a user Himanshu. So let me reload the app. So once app is reloaded, you can see we are directly moved to the home screen. We are not seeing that small flicker of the login screen. Okay, why? Because when we logged in, we came to the main navigation. Okay, main navigation, it will check. First of all, it will run this. It is going to dispatch auto login. Okay, auto login will run. Auto login will run, and it's going to check if we have the user or not. If we have the user, it's going to dispatch the username and password. And at the time of updating the user details, we are going to hide the splash screen. So in the meantime, we will continue seeing this splash screen. Once this is updated, it is going to update the splash screen to false. Once that is false, and this is also changed to true, and we are seeing the home screen. In case we logged out, and if I reload the app again, so it will come here and it will dispatch. Okay, and Once this is dispatched, it will get null here. Then it will dispatch the hide splash screen, and hide splash screen will go and hide the splash screen, and navigation, this will get false, and automatically we are navigated to login screen. Okay. So also remember that whenever we are changing this, at the same time, once the state is updated, this action is going to run, and this function is going to hide our splash screen. Okay. I think now our flow is pretty good. It's production ready. So once user is login, user will not see this flicker of login screen. Whenever he reopens the app, suppose I'm going to close this and try to reopen. Right? So it takes a second to log in. That's why it take, after loading the app, it take one second to show us the home screen, but it is not showing that small flicker of login screen. So I think it's perfect. Okay. So now let's go to our task list. So create proper login flow. So you see that how this small functionality needs this much of configuration and thinking, right? There is a pretty complex logic we need to think to get this flow perfect. Okay. And I really like the flow right now. And if you have better option than this, please suggest me. Please let me know that okay, we can do this or that. Okay. There is also one flow which I used before the splash screen was introduced, which was I was using a blank screen. So whenever user reloads the app, I used to show that blank screen until our navigation decide whether to show the home screen or the login screen. But now, after splash screen is introduced, I'm using this flow. Okay. Now let's move to our next task, which is create the task form. Okay. And after that, we are going to create the cloud functionality to integrate with the form so we can add our task. Okay. So let's tackle first task. Okay, guys, let's quickly check our design. So we have a text input. After that, we have a text area, and then we have a button for add task screen, right? So let's go back in our code editor, and here we already created our screen for add task, and here it is. So as we know, we are using React Native Paper for the components. So let's go to React Native Paper site on our browser, and here into docs, components, we can check for text input. So we don't have text area here, right? But we can create a text area using a prop called where it is multi-line. And we can also say how many lines that box need to show. Okay, and it's only work with Android. So let's go back to our code editor. Let me copy this. Basically, I'm going to copy this entire code and I will go back. Here, I will remove this and I will paste. Let's import React use state from React. enter. Okay, so it's import use state from React. We don't need these things. I'm going to remove it. Let's import text input from React Native paper. Okay, so we imported React Native paper. We imported text input from React Native paper. Let's label it add task. Okay, we also need one more, so we are going to use this. Okay, and it is showing me error. If you remember, we need to return a single component, not multiple components. Okay, so I'm going to create this fragment and save it. Okay, now we can add multi-line equals to true, or if we just keep multi-line, it is also accepted as true. Okay, so just remember that thing. So I'm not going to use true there, so I will just keep it blank. So if you want to make false, I have to write false, but if you want to make it true, then you can keep it. You don't have to assign any value to that. Okay, after that, number of lines, let's say I think maybe 6 lines. Okay, let's quickly switch and see how it is looking. Okay, it's looking fine. Now we need to add a button, and for button I will go to our auth component here, because I want to copy the style as well for the button, and I'm going to copy this from here, and at task I will add this. So I'm going to copy the style, and for that we need two styles. One is style spacer. We don't need spacer, but we need style button. Okay, so style button I'm going to copy. Let's copy spacer as well, because maybe we are going to need it. Okay, style objects here, and now if I save this and go to the tab, okay, I need to import the button. I forgot to import that. Let's import it quickly from React Native paper. Save this, go to the tab. Still there is ease loading. Okay, ease loading is not there, so right now I will just remove this prop, and we also don't have this function, so here I will say console log and rest. Let's go back. Okay, there is one more error, prop title, and this should be create task. Everywhere we have add task, so I think it's now it is looking fine. We have add task, and then we have our button. Now let's quickly add some padding from left and right and top. Okay, so I will say view here. Okay, and let's import view from React Native. Okay, and I will style equals to styles dot container. Okay, copy this, and let's create a style object, and let's say padding horizontal to be 20. Okay, and let's give some margins from the top. Margin top equals to 50 maybe. Got the comma. So let's save it. I think it's look okay, and our form is created now, right? Let's add some better icon for this. So here, if you want to use any icon, we have only one library because React Native Paper is using this library. So let's go to the browser and let me show you. Browser, and we 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 see this Expo library, right? But React Native Paper is using a material community icon library. Okay, so there we cannot use any icon name from here, but only the icon names from material community icons. Okay, so there are a lot of icons from here and you can choose one. So to create a task, let's find something maybe which shows a plus button. So let's search with plus. I think this is good enough. Text box plus outline. Okay, so from here I will copy this because I just want the name. Okay, let's go back to the code editor. Here I will change the button icon, and now it's looking fine. Okay, so our screen is ready. Okay, let's check what is our next task. So our next task is create form task is completed. Our next task is to create a cloud function to add task. Okay, so for this we have to go to our server, and now we are going to write some cloud functions on the server side, and then we will integrate it with the form task. Okay, so I think we need to add one more task after this. Integrate. So now let's move to our server and try to create a cloud function. Okay, to create a cloud function, we have to go inside cloud folder, and there we will create a separate folder, and we will name it task functions fn. Okay, okay, so let's create a file here, and let's call it task. Let's call it maybe add task function. So we are going to create separate files for each feature, like to add a task, to remove a task, to fetch a task. Okay, so to add task, we are going to create add task function. Okay, now to create a cloud function, let's go to the documentation and check how to create a cloud function. So we are already on the Parse Server platform website. Okay, and here we need to follow two documentation. One is JavaScript SDK, because we need to create a class. We need to store the data inside that object, right? So we need this definitely. So I'm going to open that. Next, we also need to check the documentation for cloud code. Okay, and here we have cloud functions. So how to create a cloud function? So basically this example we can follow. So we have to do parse cloud.define, then a cloud name, Then if there is any promises, then we need to use async and await. Okay. And in request, if we are sending any parameters, we get that in request, and we also get user, which we are going to see. Okay. So let me copy this line only. Okay. Not the entire code, but this particular line. So I'm going to copy this. Let's go back to our code editor. Okay. So we are here. Let me paste it. So let me complete this by providing curly brace and close the bracket. Okay, let's name this add new task. Okay, so first thing, what we are going to get when we run this on the client side, we need the task title, the task description, and the username, right? So we are going to store three things: username, task title, and task description. Okay, and to get the username, so I'm going to create a variable name const user equals to, we get that username using await request dot user. Okay, and to get the parameters which are we are going to pass from the client side, we have to do const task details or task data, we can say await request dot params. In params, we get all the details which we receive from the client side. Okay, we are going to destructure the data from params. Okay, and once we get the data, we need to store it in our database, right? And to store the data in the to store the data in our database, we need to check how parse help us to store the data. Okay, so let's go here, and definitely we are going to create an object, because that will be an object which is going to store inside the database. And here we can see how to create an object like this. So basically we are going to create a subclass, something like this. Okay, so here in this example we are creating a subclass of a game score. Okay, so we have to do parse.object.extend, and if this subclass is not already created, then it's going to create one. If it is already created, then it's going to simply initialized, and after that we are going to create a instance of that class, and then after that we need to save that. Okay, so for that I think we need to find some example over here. Okay, so here we have how to save the object. So basically what we are doing here is we are setting the data, right? And after that we are saving it. But as we know already, we are going to create an object and we are going to pass that object inside save to store it. Okay, so let me copy this and go back to our code editor, and let me paste it over here. And now, first of all, I need to change the class name. So basically we are going to name our class task, and we'll say task again over here, and then we are going to create an instance of that task. Here we will in small letters. So once that task is created, we are going to save that task dot save, and inside this we will create an object, and we are going to pass user Okay, we are going to pass the user object, which we are going to get from here. Okay, and the beauty of Parse Server is Parse client will detect the user, whoever the logged in user is going to send the same data with this request. So we don't have to worry about sending the user data from there. Parse client SDK is going to help with that. And here I will say title and description. So you might be thinking I need to do something like this if you are new to JavaScript. But in ES6, if your key and value for the object are same, you can use like this. You just have to mention it once and it is automatically going to create your object with user and whatever the user data you are sending. Okay, so with that it is done. One more thing. So right now we are doing this and I have to do await here, because again with when we are storing the data on database, might be there is some latency between connection or the database is down. At that time we need to know if this operation is completed or not. Okay, so for that we are going to use try catch. Okay, and I'm going to move this into try block. Okay, so it is going to try to store this, and if this is stored successfully, I'm going to return an object, and I'm going to put this object inside json.stringify. Okay, and I will say status equals to success and message we will send like task added successfully. Okay, in case this operation is failed, we are going to return an error. Return json stringify status error and message will be error message. Okay, okay, so there was some styling issue, that's why I just mentioned the ESLint disable to clean those error for now. Okay, so our function is ready, and we need to go to main.js and export this function. Okay, like this. So basically our parse server is going to read this main.js file and we need to import it here. Okay, and I have to say it's /task function /add task function. Okay, let's save this. Perfect. Now it's time to move on the client side. Let me copy this function name, cloud function name, and I will copy this. I will go back to the client code editor. Now on the client side, you know how we deal with the user sign up flow, right? If you don't remember, let me repeat it. First, what we have to do, we have to create a slice, and slice is going to define an state. So we have to create something like this, and we have to decide that how we want to structure our data when we are getting that from the server. Okay, and what we have to show, if it is going to take some time, we need to set something as loading. If there is some error, we have to show the error, right? Something like this. We need to plan our data. After create the state, we need to create some extra reducer, and extra reducer are going to provide us with cases, different cases, when the status is pending, when it is fulfilled, and if in case of it is rejected. Okay, and that way we will able to store our data inside our Redux store, right? So let's go back with these steps. Start with the slices. Okay, we are going to create a new slice for our tasks. Okay, so I'm going to name this task slice.js, and here again I'm going to start with this. I'm going to copy. There is a spelling mistake, so let me correct it. Okay, starting with creating the slice. After that, we need to initialize our state, right? And after that, we have to create our slice configuration object. Here we need to name it. We need to add initial state and reducer. And finally, we are going to export it, right? Let me copy these two lines as well. Right now, I will just keep it blank. And our slice will be task slice. I will put the actions over here. It is here. Okay. And we will have extra reducers. Okay. So we copied all the required details. Let's name this task. Okay. Now, first of all, we need to think about the initial state. So definitely there will be task, and it's going to be a blank array. And after that is loading. So whenever we are storing the data, at that time we will show a loading icon in our button. Okay, so I think these two states will be good to start with, and whenever if we need anything extra, we will store that. Okay, and for now I will keep these extra reducers blank as well. Now the next step will be creating a thunk, because in the thunk we are going to call our cloud function, and that cloud function is going to create our task, right? So in thunks, I'm going to create a new thunk, and I will call it task thunk.js. Let's go to thunks, and let me copy these two lines. Okay, then we're also going to create a thunk something like this. So I'm just going to copy this. So rather than sign up, I will say add new task. Okay, and this is the same name of our cloud function as well, right? And here in the arguments, we will take an argument of task. This is going to be an object, and this object will have title and description of our task. Let me destructure it here. So I will say title and description. Now let's go back on our parse documentation and check how to call and run cloud functions from our client SDK. Okay, so let's go back to our browser. Here we are on the JS guide, but I think we need to go on Cloud Code. And here we will see an example how to execute it from a client side and run the job. Okay, here we need to find implementation. So we implemented the function, and then once it is defined, run cloud function. So once it is defined, you can call the cloud function from iOS. This is the example for Swift, and this is the this is the example for JavaScript. Okay, so you can see we can get the params, pass the params, and parse cloud code dot run, and the name of that particular cloud function. So this is the way. Okay, so let me copy this. Let's go back to our code editor. Let's paste it over here. Okay, so we copied. Okay, so this is our function, and if we check our cloud function name, which is add new task, right? Let me paste it over here, add new task. So we are going to run that cloud function, and in the place of params, we are going to pass this same object as our params. Okay, and here task, and we are going to return the task. Let's first console log the task to check how we are getting the task, and after that we will decide how we need to return that particular task. Okay, so I think this is perfect for now. Let's use this function name, basically action, and we need to think from where we need to run this particular action. Okay, and we already know that we are adding the task from add task screen, so let's go there first. Okay, and here first of all we need to set our use state to grab those values. If you remember, in our last video I explained you how to use state to grab our values from our input text and store it in our use state, and whenever user will click the button, we can pass those values from use state to our function. Okay, so first of all, let me paste that function over here. Let me import it. Okay, and also we are going to need a dispatch because there is an action we need to dispatch it from this function. So I will say cons dispatch equals to, we need to use a hook name use dispatch. Okay, and we are going to wrap our action inside dispatch. Now in add task we need to pass two values. One is title and description, right? So I will say we are going to use this use state as a title and set title. Let me duplicate this with using Control Shift D. Okay, and here we will say description and set description. Okay, and we will keep blank values for both. After that, let's quickly mention title value will be description, and here we will say set set title, and here we will say set description. Okay, that description should be capital. We are going to use camel case over here. Okay, so this is going to grab the value of this input text, it will be stored here, and when the button will be clicked, these values will be taken from here and pass it to our form, right? So let's try this now. Let's test it if it is working or not. Okay, so let's go to our emulator. It is not connected with our server, so let me reload it with using $R, getting the new updates, and it is connected. We already logged in. Okay, use dispatch doesn't exist. I forgot to import that. So let me quickly import this from React Redux. Let me save it. Let's check. Okay, there is no error now. So let me add test title, and here test description. Let's click on create. Okay, let's go to command line and check if we have something. Okay, so you can see we are getting this log which is saying bad request. Let's go on server command line and see what is the problem. Here we have detailed error. So invalid function, add new task, invalid function. Okay, so inside function router, it is not able to find this add new task function. Okay, so we need to check. I think we need to reload our server once. So I will say rs and let's try to reload it. Okay, so server started. Let's go back to our emulator. And already our title and description is there. Let's click on the button. And let's go back to our command line. And here you can see ran cloud function, add new task from the user. So it is the user object ID. And here is the input and here is the result. Okay, so I think we successfully created our task. Let's go to our app command line and let's see if we get the console log over here. Okay, so here we have the log. You can see status successful, task added successfully. Okay, that means our cloud function is successfully integrated with our app. Now I need to check what are these errors. Cannot read promise. There are some promise errors. Let's go back to our. Okay, so here we have some promise rejections and errors. So let's try to resolve these. Cannot read the property of username, where it is coming from. Do it app, add log. So let's go to our command line, check our task function first. And so what is the problem? What I'm thinking is right now we are using the same name. Okay, I forgot to rename our function. So here I will say task and let's say create. Okay, we are going to name this. So basically task create, task remove, task update. We are going to name our thunk for task like that. Okay, so now let's try this again. So this time I'm going to say test task 2, add task, add task description 2. And let's try it again, and let me click. Let's check the command line. Hopefully this time we should not have any errors. And here we go. We can see it is successfully created. Okay, so always remember, keep our thunk name unique. Okay, otherwise we are going to face such errors. So we have added the task successfully. So that is great. Now let's work on this function and let's store this data inside our Redux store. So let's return this, and basically what we are going to returning is a stringify object, right? So we are going to parse it, json.parse, and I'm going to pass the task. And one more thing, and on the server side, what we are doing is we are returning the error. Okay, the right way to returning an error from the server side is to throw it. Okay, so let me show you. Let's go to server back. Okay, I made that mistake, and right now I think let's correct it before we are seeing any error. So let's say throw error dot message. Okay, so whatever error we are getting, we are going to throw that error from using this. Okay, so now you might be thinking, okay, how to check if we store our data on the server or not? Where is that data? So definitely you can check the database, but Parse Server also provide us a UI which called Parse Dashboard, and it is quite easy interface to understand how we are storing the data on the Parse Server. Okay, so let's go there. Let's check our data. We have created two tasks and see those tasks are stored on Parse Server or not. And for that, we have to go back to our command line. Okay, and I'm going to, this is our server running, and this is our ngrok running. So first of all, I'm going to stop the ngrok. Okay, and what we are going to do, let's go back to our browser and search for Parse platform, and here you can see Parse dashboard. So I will control and enter, so it will open a new tab over here. So here it is the simple command which you need to run. Okay, let me copy that quickly. Let's go back to the command line again. Rather than going to command line, let's go to our server code editor first. Let's create that command first. Okay, so I'm going to click on read me, and here I will just create a new line and paste it. Okay, so what it is required is the app id. So if we go to our index.js, here you can see our app id. Okay, let's copy it quickly. Let's go back to here and save it. So app id equals to my app id and my master key. Okay, so master key is very important thing in Parse Server. Okay, and you need to keep your master key secret. Otherwise, if anybody got the master key, he have the full control on your server. So you must write a very complex master key for your server. And second thing, keep it secure. Okay, so let's set this as a master key for our server, because this is a simple testing server or development server. Okay, and here we are going to run our Parse server, and here I can remove this and I will say colon slash slash localhost colon 1337 and Parse Server, and we can name our app. So our app name is do it srv for server. So our command is ready. So let's copy it from here. Okay, and let's go back to our command line. Here I will open a new Ubuntu command line to run this, and I will use bunx like you can also use npm x, but I'm going to use bunx, and I'm going to paste that command and I will enter. Okay, and right now we are running it on localhost 4040. Let's go back to our browser. I will open a new tab and I will say enter. So here is our Parse dashboard, but it is saying unauthorized master key. So let's go back quickly and check if we have the right master key. My master key. So let me copy this from here and go to index.js. And I pasted my master key. It is correct. Okay. But I forgot to restart the server. Okay. So let's go back to the command line. And here I will say rs to reload the app. Let's run ngrok as well. So whenever we are running the ngrok, always remember to paste it inside your app. So quickly I will go to my client code editor. In app.js, I'm going to replace it because whenever we are starting a new one, it's going to give us a new URL. Okay. So let's go back to the command line. Our server is started and I will quickly enter. Okay. Let's go back to the browser. Let's reload it. And now you can see our server is connected. Okay. Let's click here. And here are the classes. Okay, you can create a new class from here, but I recommend not to use the UI to create classes. Okay, so here we have our to title and description. Okay, and here is our user. So user, right now you can see it is showing the user ID and it created as a pointer. Here the title is stored as a string and this is as a string as well. Okay, but this is as a pointer. Okay, so it is pointing to our user. If I click here, you can see it is switched to our user class, and here we have Himanshu user, and these things are hidden. Password is hidden. Okay, so automatically Parse Server is managing our data, storing with the required data type. And next time, if you pass any, suppose here we have string data type. If you pass number data type or Boolean data type, it is going to show an error. And right now it will only accept string data type here for this particular row. Okay. So here is our parse database. Sorry, here is our parse dashboard, and you can use this to check if our data is stored on the server on the database. Okay, if you want to create new class, you can create it from here as well, and we can do many more things, and I will show you whatever things are required server side. Okay, I will try to use it very little. Okay, I just want to show you how you can check your data on your Parse server. Okay, you can remove these data as well using edit, and here from delete column, delete all rows, and delete the entire class as well. Okay, so that's what I want to show you, and that is done right now. So let's go back to our client code editor. Okay, let's go to our auth slice. Let's go to our task thunk. Okay, and right now we are returning the json.parse and we are returning the task. Okay, now let's go to the task slice. I'll also like to open the auth slice. Okay, so we can copy paste something. So as we remember, we are going to use the three cases which we have. One is pending, second is fulfilled, and rejected. Okay, so basically in the life cycle of an operation, when we are sending any data or receiving any data from the server, basically first it's going to be a pending. After that, if the request is successful, it's going to be fulfilled. If it is not successful, then it will go inside rejected. Okay, so let's copy this quickly and paste over here. Okay, so rather than sign up, we are going to use add new task. Okay, so I will say add new task. Let me import it quickly. Okay, add new task pending, add new task fulfilled, add new task rejected. Okay, so definitely ease loading will be true when we are in the pending state. Okay, we can remove unwanted arguments from there. Second, when the case is fulfilled, at that time we will make the loading false. We don't need this, so I'm going to remove it. If there is any error, no errors, so also we are going to need is error state, is error false, and we have user name action. Okay, so here we will have tasks. I will say task status. Okay, and let's create status over here, and let's keep it null for now. Okay, and we are going to get the task status from task. So action dot payload dot task, right? So if we go back to task thunk, we are passing the task and we are receiving the task, and I'm going to store that inside this. So basically that task will have, sorry, that status will have status and the message. Okay, so we can use that to store it, and in case of some error, we are going to get the error message from here. Okay, because we are throwing the error from there. We are throwing the error from the server, and it's going to catch it and display the message. Okay, so I think it's better to throw the error only, because we are anyways we are going to catch that object and show the specific error from that, right? So I will go back to the server, and here I will just want to throw the error. I will store this. Okay, so there is some problem with the ESLint, and that's why I'm disabling it for now. We will solve it later. Let's go back to our client code editor. And here we are going to show the error. So I'm going to store it inside error, and initially it will be null. Okay. So I want to comment it as create new task. Okay. So whatever the new task we are going to create, it is going to update that. Okay. Now, in case of error or in case of the task is created, let's try to show that inside our add task screen. Okay. So let's go back. So user will be know that, okay, the task we want to create is created, or in case of any error, we are going to show the error. So let's show that over here. And here I will create a view. Okay. And let's wrap this inside fragment, because you already know that we can not return multiple components. Okay. So here we are going to show the message if it is successful or not. Okay. And for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a component from React Native paper. So let's go back to the browser quickly and let's open React Native paper. Components. And here we will use something called help text. Okay. So I'm going to copy this, or rather I will copy this entire message. So type info and error. Okay. So we are going to use info. Here I will paste this. Okay. Let's import it quickly by control space. So if it have any errors, let's go back to our task slice. And here, if there is any error, we are making it true. Okay. And we are showing the message, right? So let's go back to our task. Let's import that state. And how to get the state? Destructure it. And to get the state, we have to use selector, right? So we already use this for login and sign up, right? So you might be remember. Okay. And one more thing I forgot. Okay. So that we created the slice, but we forgot to add that to our store. Okay. So let's quickly go back to the store, which is store, and in index.js, we need to import task slice from dot slash task reducer, not task reducers, task slice. Okay. And let's quickly check if we have exported the task reducer. Yeah, we have export task slice dot reducer. Okay. So we have exported that and import inside our store. Now we have the task reducer. Let's quickly give it a name. which will be task, and let's use the task reducer over here. Okay, and this is how we add our task store to state. Okay, so here we can access that using task. Okay, and now here we can access is, error, and error, and what we have, task slice, we access is loading, error. I think we need all these things also, right? So let's copy this task status, is loading, and task status. Okay, so we are going to grab all these things from the task, and we are going to use is error here. Okay, so if there is an error, show that, and we are going to pass that error over here. Okay, so it's going to show that error message. One more, and Control Shift D to duplicate it. Here, let's say info, and is task status. We are going to show the task status, and task status will have two things. If we go back to task thunk, you know that we are passing task dot message and task dot status. Okay, so here we can say status dot status equals to, if this is success, then visible it. Okay, and here we are showing task status dot message. Fine, so I'm going to store this, save this. Let's quickly test it. Let me log in first, then ABCD1234. I logged in. We have some error, cannot read property of status. So I will just pass this question mark operator, and if using this, what we are saying, that if task status is have some value, then try to check the status. Okay, let's check now. Still we are getting some error. For here also we need a question mark. If we have task status, then show the status. Okay, now I will try test task number 2 and test description number. Let's create this. So let's quickly console.log the task status, if we are getting anything or not. Okay, so it's saying undefined. Okay, so let's go back quickly and check inside task thunk. So I think we just need to pass the action.payload.task only payload, because we already have that. And if you want to get some specific value, then we can use that, like dot status or message, right? So let's pass the task status with the payload. Okay, and now let's go back to the emulator. Let's try to log in again. Yes. Task 3. Task added successfully, so we get the message. Okay, so that was the problem. I done that mistake, so sorry for that, but now it is successful. We are showing that message, so task is added. Great. Okay, so let's quickly clean up the message as well as these two values as from add task and add description. Okay, so let's go back to our add task file. Okay, here let's first change the task label to description. Okay, so description, now you can see it is changed. And when user is pressing this button, at that time I want these two inputs should be cleared. Okay, and for that we can do like set title to blank. Okay, and set description to blank. This way, whenever we are storing the data at that time, our values will be cleared out from here and user can enter new values. Also, I like to show this in the center. So I will style it and styles dot hypertext. Let's copy this, create a new, and here we can, I forgot to add a comma, and quickly let's say text align to center. Okay, now it's came to center, right? And I will say status is add successful, task add successful. Okay, so that is cool. Task is added, and if now we also want that whenever user will start typing a new task, we want to clear of this status. Okay, we don't want to show this status when users start typing this. Okay, so let's go to our slice, and here we are going to create a reducer. Okay, and this reducer is going to give us an action which will allow us to make that change. Okay, so we are using extra reducers when we want to get the data from server. So basically extra reducers, we are using it for server side operations, and reducers we are going to create for local app level operations. Okay, so like clearing the data or clearing an error, if you want to show some error. Okay, whatever the local level task we want to do, and for that if we need any action, at that time we will create from reducers. Okay, so let's say clear success message. Okay, and here we want to let's say clear message. Okay, so whatever kind of message we are getting, success or error, let's use that clear message. Okay, and here we want to clear let's say state dot task status equals to null. Okay, we are going to and state dot is error to false, state dot error to null. Okay, and now this function we need to pass this as an action. Okay, and now we can use this function in add task and uh, let's use an use effect, and I'm going to use it once, and here we will call that clear function. Okay, let's import it, importing it from the slice. So there's an action, so we need to run it using dispatch. Okay, we already imported dispatch, use dispatches here. Okay, but we don't want this to be run every time, right? We want it to run on some specific time, like whenever we have something like task status. Okay, we want it to run when the task status is successful. Okay, so I will add a condition if task status equals to successful or is error. Okay, so we will add these two conditions and I will keep our dispatch clear between this. Okay, so we want this to run on task status or is error if there are any changes between inside this. At that time we want to run this. We want this to run after some time. Okay, so let's use set timeout, and this is going to take a function and it's going to run after maybe, let's show that message for 5 seconds. Okay, so once this status is changed, if success or if there is an error, that message will be shown, right? And message will be shown, and after 5 seconds this is going to run. Okay, so let's save this. Let's try this. Task. Okay, I forgot to import use effects. Sorry for that. Every time I forgot to import the things which I am using. Let's add our new task and let's name this maybe test task 5, I guess. Test task description 5, and let's create this. So status task added successfully. Let's wait for 5 seconds, and there is some error, state doesn't exist. Okay, so let's check. Okay, so the problem is in the slice. We made this error. We have to do state and action as an argument. Let's save this. Okay, so we saved this and the state is clear. That's why we are logged out. You might be thinking why we are logging out every time when we are making changes in state. So whenever we are making any changes in state, it is get cleared, and that's why we are getting logged out. Okay, so it is logged in. Let's try again. Let's quickly type some gibberish and let's create task shown. Let's wait for 5 seconds. You can see the status is cleared automatically. So that is great. Okay, and also you can see our input. Also our inputs are clear. Okay, so it is working as we want. Okay, so that is great. Cool. So now let's go back to our task list and see what task we have next. So we created the cloud function to add the task. We integrated the cloud function to the task, right? To the task form. Also, we have done some cleanup. Okay, so now our next task is to create task list in the home screen. And we will complete this task in the next section. Sorry guys, I thought that we will able to complete in 2 sections, but due to problem at my end, I have to create a section 3 to complete this project. Okay, I hope so far you are enjoying your learning, and if you have any questions, feel free to put it inside comments, or we have a Discord server where you can join and send your questions. All the questions which you send before next Wednesday, I'm going to create a video, give the answers of your questions and publish it on the Saturday. Okay, so if you have questions, feel free to write before Wednesday. With that, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe the video if you're not already. And I would like to see you in section 3. So till then, keep learning.